Hey, what's up everybody? It's Steve. Wanted to visit Blackburn Park today. It's a little rainy. Look at that view. I am in Pacific, Missouri, just west of St. Louis. I'm about 6 miles outside of St. Louis County. We're in Franklin County right now. So Blackburn Park was recently discovered about 5 years ago, and the significance behind this spot is this was a artillery barrage for the Confederates, not the Union. The Confederate Army, right around, I think, 1864. It could have been sooner. Yeah, it was in 1864. Here's the little plaque they have up here. See if I can zoom in a bit for you so you can read it. So basically what happened was the Confederates were trying to take control of the railroad, which you guys can see probably right here. They managed to get through the town of Pacific. So downtown Pacific is right here. You guys can see some of the old buildings, the old opera houses right here. And basically what they did is they crossed over these tracks here, took over the tracks. They actually burned down, I don't know where it was. I'd like to find out where it was, but they burned down the train depot. And then they came up here. You can see my car here, but there's a road to get up here. They didn't come up that way. That was built for the park, obviously. This is a cliff. You guys can see right here, like it drops off right here. But this would have gone down towards the tracks, a slope that they could easily have gotten wagons up here with these artillery cannons. And there's a little plaque on the ground here honoring those that have served. This is not a real cannon, this is a replica, but this is what they would have looked like. I don't think they would have looked this nice in the Confederates. You know, a lot of the Confederate stuff was handmade, where a lot of the Union stuff was machine made. Oh, that's pretty cool. So they got some little plaque here. I think it was the Kentucky Cavalry that was here. There was a couple cavalries. I'm gonna post on my blog. So I've created a blog and a vlog that I am going to start sharing this information with, and hopefully I'll get some more details with these sites I'm visiting. But it's going to be called Rustic Land Collective, pretty much identifying a lot of these old sites and cemeteries and interesting facts about primarily the Midwest. If I can get out some other places, that too. So basically, like I said, the Confederates would have come up here. They did take the railroad in, from what I understand. I know the Federals did as well. So in my other video, I talked about Inks, William C. Inks, who down that way is buried in a cemetery. And he was the major of this battalion that was in Pacific, Missouri. Now, he was the Missouri Home Guard, so he had an affiliation with this battle. And the Confederate major was, I believe his name was Cabell, Major Cabell. I'm trying to find William Lewis Cabell. So he was the guy that ran the raids through Pacific. Their ultimate goal was to take over the town of Pacific, which obviously is this, and you guys can see by this map. So Pacific is here. Their idea was to take over Pacific, but they also wanted to destroy Gray Summit. They wound up burning Gray Summit down. This was like Moselle. I don't know much about Moselle. I need to go visit that. It looks like they did burn that down, and then they attacked Washington and Union. Their objective was to destroy all these towns and take them over so the Confederates can move into St. Louis. Ultimately, their goal was to get out to Jefferson City. I've read some books, and this might be inaccurate, but I believe, and it has nothing to do with his name, but I believe Jefferson Davis's goal was to occupy Jefferson City. You know, they primarily operated out of the southern Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, I believe. I think the Confederate capital was in Virginia, I believe. I could be wrong. I'm just getting into a lot of this stuff, so bear with me. But I do know from some books I've read about Missouri, specifically with the Civil Wars, I believe their objective was to occupy Jeff City. And they didn't necessarily ever make it. I know that they visited Jeff City quite often. You know, there was a lot of, in 1861 when the Civil War was breaking out, there was a lot of communication between Union and the Home Guard and what would ultimately be the Confederacy, and there was a lot of cavalry and militias being started and whatnot. So, like I said, I think it's my understanding that Jeff City was almost occupied, but never really was. I just can't get over this view. I mean, you can imagine what they were coming across with horses and stuff. I mean, the camera's not doing it justice, but you can see the ridgeline way back there. I mean, they're not mountains, but they're pretty significant hills. Just imagine having to lug these bad boys. You know, if you weren't coming by rail, you were coming by boat, and if you weren't coming by boat, guess what? You were coming by foot. And you know, these, I don't know about this one, but back in the day, these things it's all iron, not necessarily light. There were several different, like I mentioned earlier, there were several different militias involved. I don't think I found it here, but I did find a document online that listed out every single militia and cavalry, both Union and Confederate, that was affiliated with the war, or with the battle. Now, the battle only lasted 3 hours, from what I've read. So they call it a battle, but it was more of a like a quarrel, a scuffle. Nobody died, from what I've read. There were 7 Union soldiers that were injured. Nobody from the Confederate side. Now, for those of you that know Civil War history, the Confederates did have some significant wins with some major battles, but a lot of these scuffles were mainly won by the Union Army due to numbers. But this particular one that happened in Pacific was actually won by the Confederates, and the Confederates ran the Union soldiers out of here. They wound up retreating back. So that's the Union Pacific Railroad, which Inks, by the way, William C. Inks, who was part of the Pacific Battalion, helped enable that track to go out to California and the Santa Fe. So the Santa Fe line and the Union Pacific line, William C. Inks, who was the major of the Pacific Battalion, had something to do with. And anyway, when the Confederates took over the town, the Union soldiers got back on the railroad and went back straight up to St. Louis. They retreated, and that was what got the Confederates to march on. I'm going to turn here this way to Jeff City. So right now, this whole, I'm going to stand behind the cannon so you guys can get a perspective of what they were doing. So the artillery, and there was 4 of them here, and I don't know how they were placed. I don't think anybody knew. Like I said, this spot was discovered like 5 years ago. And nobody's here, obviously. Yes, it's raining, but this is the second time I've been here. I don't think a lot of people even know this exists. But you can see kind of how the hill would have sloped down, so they would have been able to come up here. I wish I could metal detect here. They would have come up here, and there was 4 of these cannons here. So you can see how they were strategically placed. I'm literally standing behind here like I would be a gunman, right? So they're literally facing, I would assume the depot was down here by the Opera House. It had to have been, because these are like the main crossroads here in Pacific. Might have been over there where that parking lot was. So these things were strategically placed to get the center of the town. And they knew that the Union Army would be coming up the railroad. So the Confederates did their homework to take these towns over. And it just fascinates me that they actually won the scuffle that was here. Like I said on my blog, I'll try to do a huge write-up about this because this fascinates me. And if you watch my video about the William C. Inks Cemetery, kind of strikes my theory, or not proves my theory, but I think I'm getting close, that something happened that way too. Because I told you the woman who told me about the Inks Cemetery also mentioned her son found a cannonball in their backyard, which, again, Civil War soldiers just didn't randomly carry cannonballs. They were super heavy, like 20 pounds a piece. Some of the smaller ones were like 8 to 10 pounds. But think about carrying 8 pounds on you that isn't your own body in a circular, like a ball. I mean, you just don't carry that stuff around. So there had to be something that happened. And if you follow the railroad, that leads right to where Inks Cemetery is. It goes around and that goes that way, through Eureka and through St. Louis. And they're selling this spot, not selling it, but they're telling people that this spot is the closest battle to ever come to St. Louis. However, I think, quite honestly, that there might be more battles or scuffles that have happened besides this spot. Especially given, I'm coming back over to the map, especially given how far spread these towns are, right? So Pacific is here, Washington is here. Now Washington's further down the highway. You can also see the Missouri River over here. I mean, there was a lot going on. And I know for a fact the Missouri State Home Guard, which became the Confederate, they occupied the Missouri River like crazy. So again, a lot of significance here, and I'm just super excited to get out and be doing this stuff and getting information and sharing it. You know, despite if anybody even watches it, it's fun for me to get out and learn this stuff, especially being from north in Chicago and now living down here. You know, the Chicago and Illinois had some play on the war. You know, there was a POW camp at Fort Dearborn, but other than that, we didn't have any battles. We didn't have this type of history like Missouri does, because Missouri was right in the middle of everything. They never seceded to the South, but yet there was a lot of Confederate movement here. Really cool. I just can't get over, like, can you imagine being 1864 and what this view would have looked like? I mean, all of that would have been hills on the other side, most likely. It could have been farmland. It probably looked a little different than this, but you can just imagine what they were seeing. Starting right here, so this is Osage, which is also Route 66, by the way, right at the bottom down there. But you can see where the tracks are. Look at all those buildings, all these buildings, like that one there, that's 1860s. The Opera House certainly is from the 1860s, and you got some other really old buildings there. So again, they tried to destroy this town. They never really did it, but like I said, they were able to get the Union Army out of here and do their thing. Now, and when I say do their thing, I think they were trying to take this over and make it a hub for them, but by the time the Union, I'm reading this, by the time the Union even got here to fight them off, it was over. And then they wound up trying to move west. They burned the town of Gray Summit, which is right here. And then they joined the Confederate force, which was encamped at Union. So they were occupying Union at the time. And then they moved west towards Jeff City with one division under General John Marmaduke, tracking the route of present-day Highway 100 to Herman. And then there was another small battle at Herman on October 3rd, 1864, and a larger one in Jeff City. And I knew, like I said, I knew that they were ultimately trying to take over Jefferson City. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting facts about this little battle here. It played some significance in the Civil War itself. They moved out west from the South. You know, they were coming straight up. They would have come south or taken the railroad or the rivers, because the Merrimack's not too far from here. They would have found a way to get up here. So here's just some... I visited Resurrection Cemetery yesterday. So you guys can kind of see, this is a map that they've kind of drawn up. So number 1 is the junction, okay? Number 2 would be the battle, which was way over here. Number 3 is Blackburn Park, which is here. So they would have, the railroad goes that way. And as you can see, the cannons are kind of faced this way, so they probably would have been faced more that way. The depot, again, would have been down there, so they were shooting that way. Pretty sweet. Go back to this really quick. I haven't been here yet. I need to go find that, by the way. I was at Resurrection Cemetery yesterday. I might actually drive over and see if I can visit this Pacific City Cemetery right now, actually. So it's pretty sweet. So this is St. Louis County. You guys can kind of see the borderline of the county. St. Louis County, Franklin County. Here's a creek. Need to check that out. Obviously, there's always a lot of stuff that happens in creeks. Anything with water, you know, they tended to stay by any type of water form because that's what they used as trails, just like the Indians would have. So pretty cool. Just wanted to share with you guys. I'm about to head out, try to check out this cemetery if I can. And like I said, Rustic Land Collective is going to be my vlog and my blog. So what I try to do is I'm going to try to post videos like this, but then also go on the blog I write and give more of a detailed written description of what I've seen, so you guys can use it as a reference. And anybody else, you know, there's a lot of Civil War historic sites and Civil War foundations that they don't know this stuff either. You know, a lot of emphasis is put on the larger battles and the larger towns. So when you get to these smaller towns, a lot of this stuff, it's either hearsay, you got to talk to the people that have lived here forever. Obviously, you're not going to find people that lived in the 1860s, but you're going to find descendants of people that lived in the area. And that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Actually, what happened here, like Ink Cemetery, an Eagle Scout did this, just like he did Ink Cemetery. So an Eagle Scout found this area or knew about this area and helped rehab it. It's not utilized at all. Like, I can tell you that right now from what I've read online. From being here for the past 2 days, nobody comes up here. I don't know if people in the town just don't know about it or nobody cares. You can be like my wife and not really care about history at all. But yeah, you can. Speaking of trains, you can hear a train coming up right now. So that train's going to come up right where they were, and I bet you that's either a Santa Fe line or a Union Pacific line. They get pretty noisy here because of the main roads. Really quick, while that train's coming in, you guys can see the mines over there, kind of. I'm going to try to zoom in. You see these bad boys right here? Those are mines. Those are actually silica mines. I used to think that they were salt mines. I'm standing on one, by the way, too. I used to think they were salt mines. There you go. It's the Santa Fe line, BNSF. So like I said, there was two major lines, Santa Fe and Union Pacific, that William C. Inks, the major of the Pacific Battalion, actually had some play in producing these train lines to go out west. And there you go. So anyway, back to the mines. Those are silica mines. I used to think they were salt mines. I'm standing on one right now. Underneath this hill is a sand mine. Basically what it is I found out that this whole area sat underneath a seabed 400 million years ago. The ocean was here. And all of these hills around here, you can see the tree line, but as you go down into the ground, you can actually see the line. You see that line with the rocks? It looks like sand. That's the old seabed. It's 400 million years old, and they still mine it for sand. And according to the company, I don't know the name of the company offhand, but according to the company that mines the sand here, says that there is still so much sand in the ground that they can be mining sand for the next 100 years. And that sand is used for everything. Computer chips, I think they use it, like the computer chips, the phones, like iPhones, the computer chips you have in your iPhones are made from silica, which is in relation to sand, and that's all mined here, which is really interesting. But anyway, I'm gonna get stormed down here in a bit too, so I wanna go check out that cemetery before I get rained on. Just wanted to show you guys. Again, this is Blackburn Park in Pacific, Missouri. There was a small battle here, but played a significant role in the Confederates trying to take over Missouri. So thanks a lot, guys. Again, check out my blog and vlog once they come up on YouTube and the internet. Rustic Land Collective. I appreciate the support, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.